So good day everyone, I'm Zara May Lim and your reporter for today. So I'll be discussing about different problem of watershed management and watershed protection in Davao region. But before we proceed to our main topic, let's discuss first about what is watershed. So watershed is an area of land that drains all the streams and rainfall to a common outlet such as the outflow of a reservoir, mouth of a bay, or any point along a stream channel. So a watershed is simply the geographic area through which water flows across the land and drain into a common body of water, whether a stream, river, lakes, or ocean. The watershed boundary will more or less follow the highest rigid line around the stream channels and meet the bottom and or lowest point of the land, where water flows out of the watershed. The amount of the waterway, as rainwater or melted snow run downhill in the watershed, it collects and transports sediments and other materials and deposits them in the receiving water body. So next is, what is watershed management? So watershed management is a term used to describe the process of implementing land use practices and water management practices to protect and improve the quality of water and other natural resources within a watershed by managing the use of those land and water resources in a comprehensive manner. So watershed management is a study of the relevant characteristic of watershed aimed at the sustainable distribution of its resources and the process of creating and implementing plans, program, and projects to sustain and enhance watershed functions that affect the plants, animals, and human communities within the watershed boundaries. So features of watershed that agency seeks to manage to include water supply, water quality, drainage, stormwater runoff, water right, and overall planning and utilization of watershed. So I have to describe first the watershed to go along. In other words, watershed management also assures the safety of the community. So we all know that water is very essential nowadays to us, especially to us living organisms or animals, humans. So water is a prerequisite of sustainable development. Must be ensured that our streams, river, lakes, or other type of water body are not contaminated. So I have pictures here in my next slide. So source of water pollution. So we have main source of water pollution. So the factories, the agriculture, mining, sewage, and people. So I'll be explaining the 5. So let's discuss first the first one, which is factories. So factories are often dump dirty water, use chemical and oils, sewage, and cafeteria waste directly into the ground or into a community water source. So factory makes useful product, but they also make waste. Unfortunately, factory owners do not always dispose of waste safely. So factory often put dangerous chemical and other dangerous materials into the air, water, and ground. So pollution from factories waste cause serious health problem for everyone in the community, and when it travels in the air and water can even cause illness for the people who live hundreds of miles away. So next one is the agriculture. So agriculture, which accounts for 70% of water withdrawal worldwide. So even though agriculture is very useful for us, especially for the food that we take, agriculture also plays a major role in water pollution. So majority of the farmers use fertilizer in taking care of their plants and pesticides. So farmers discharge large quantities of agrochemicals, organic matters, drug residues, and sediments and saline drainage into water bodies. So the other one is the mining. So in mining, the recent years, the mining practices have been improved, but we can't deny that the significant environmental risk remains. So mining affects fresh water through heavy use of water in processing ore, and through water pollution from discharge mine, effluent, and seepage from tailing and waste rock impoundment. Increasingly, human activities such as mining threaten the water source on which we all depend. Also, sewage is one of the source of water pollution. So sewage is the term used for wastewater that often contains human body waste, urine, laundry waste. So most commonly, the household are the main source of sewage. So the last one is us, people. So humans are the main cause of water pollution, which is triggers in so many ways. So by our careless action like dumping our waste in some of our lakes or any type of water body that are not supposed to be a dumping site. So that's the main source of water pollution. Now let's move on to the next slide, which is the Davao City. The Davao City is surrounded by 8 watersheds. So this watershed a natural reservoir for the pristine potable water that has been certified as one of the world's cleanest drinking water. So in the left side, we can see how many barangays are under a specific watershed. So I have in my next slide, so the Talomo watershed and Lipadas watershed. So the Talomo-Lipadas watershed is the source of 97% of the Davao City drinking water. So we have here the watershed issues in Davao regions. So the unregulated water extraction, deforestation, land use conflict, improper cultivation of hilly lands, poor waste management, limited government resources. So I'll be discussing first the first issues that discuss. So the unrelated water extraction, not controlled or supervised by regulation or law of taking care from any source, so either temporarily or permanent for flood control or to obtain water for example, irrigation. So this extraction water could also be used as drinking water after suitable treatment. Suitable treatment. So next one is deforestation. So deforestation is the permanent removal of trees to make room for something besides of forests. So this can include clearing the lands for agriculture or grazing, or using the timber for fuels or construction or manufacturing. The third one is land use conflict. So a land use conflict occurs when there are conflict views on land use policies, such as when an increasing population creates competitive demands for the use of the land, causing a negative impact on the other land uses nearby. So other one is the improper cultivation of hillside. So not in accordance with accepted rules or standard of taking care for raising plants in hillside. So next is the poor waste management. So poor waste management is ranging from non-existing collection system to ineffective disposal, so cause air pollution, water and soil contamination. The last one is the limited government resources. So limited government means that there are few rules that must be followed and enforced. The resources that would otherwise be devoted to complying with regulation can be dedicated instead to more productive uses or to leisure time. So protecting healthy watershed and restoring degraded one is one of the country major problem. So or other major unmet environmental challenges. So effective watershed conservation will require cooperation and coordination among all levels of government, including the local units. Watershed conservation is one of the increasing significant environmental protection roles local government are playing for a variety of reasons, ranging from the choice to coercion. So the next one is the Davao Watershed Management Council, or WMC. Is a multi-sectorial government body tasked with managing the resources of the watershed. Currently, it is implementing a delineation project that will identify critical areas of watershed for conservation and protection. So the next one is, in addition to my report, here are the local policies and ordinance on watershed protection in Davao region. So local policy and ordinance in watershed protection. So the City Ordinance number 51690 of 2001, Water Resources Protection and Management Code for Davao City, or Water Code. So the next one is City Ordinance number 031007 of 2007. So Watershed Protection, Conservation and Management Ordinance of Davao City Watershed Code, or implementing rules and regulation. So City Ordinance number 029809 of 2009, City Ordinance for the proper harvesting, storage, and utilization of rainwater harvesting code. So implementing rules and regulation. So the next one is the Executive Order number 19, series of 2006, an order implementing the reconstitution of Watershed Management Council, or WMC, the Barangay Watershed Management Council, or BWMC, and the Watershed Multi-Part-Type Monitoring Team in Davao City are mandated in Watershed Code. So this one is signed by our city mayor, Mayor Sara Duterte. So under this code, whereas the city government of Davao recognized the importance of a healthy and ecological sound watershed area in achieving the ecological balance where human beings and nature thrives in harmony with each other. Whereas under this code also, whereas the city government of Davao recognized the watershed areas are central to the aspiration of a livable city for Davaoenos who must maintain its sustainability through participative, empowered, and environmental conscious community. Whereas the city government of Davao recognized that the watershed areas for the city's aquifers must be protected, conserved, and managed as they are the source of the city's drinking water. Whereas Ordinance number 03107 series of 2007, otherwise known as the Watershed Code, enacted on January 23, 2007, its implementing rules and regulation, approved October 15, 2008, and published in locally circulated papers on January 7, 2009. Then, whereas there is a need to develop general direction for interaction among government and agency and stakeholders, multi-sector participation, and collaborative management, create administrative and policy-making bodies to craft policy, guidelines, and strategies towards ensuring the health and sustainability of the watershed areas. Whereas the Watershed Code under Article 12 to 167 creates, identifies the composition, defines the administration, function, powers, and duties, and specify the source of funds for the operation of the Watershed Multi-Part-Type Monitoring Team. Whereas the city government of Davao prioritized the protection and conservation of the city watershed areas, the crucial to development and sustainability for the use of present and future generation, and deems important the management and monitoring by the aforementioned bodies. Whereas the effective, efficient, and consistent implementation of the Watershed Code can only be assured with the organization and operationalization of these bodies for participatory monitoring and evaluation headed by council of relevant stakeholder and interest group. So the next slide under also with this one is the section 1, the reconstitution. There is hereby reconstitute of the following body which implement the Watershed Code. So number 1 is Watershed Management Council, or WMC, which shall issue policies and guidelines in use the direction of the collaboration in gathering, processing, and the evaluating information on watershed areas in Davao City, and develop plans and strategies toward ensuring the health and sustainability. So Watershed Management Council, or WMC, are assigned to the whole city watershed. So the next one is the Barangay Watershed Management Council, or the BWMC, which shall be organized in every barangay within designated watershed areas of having a portion of a watershed area within a boundary to assist the WMC in ensuring the efficient, and consistent implementation of the Watershed Code. So the Barangay Watershed Management Council, or the BWMC are the one assigned to watershed that is near their barangay, so to assist the WMC. So in short, the BWMC are the left hand of WMC in ensuring that our watershed is healthy and safe. So number 3 is Watershed Multipartite Monitoring Team, or WMMT, which shall be organized in every designated cluster of watershed areas to assist the WMC in ensuring full compliance by all the provision of this code. It's implementing rules and regulation and other environment laws. So the Watershed Multipartite Monitoring Team, or WMMT, has the same function with WMC, but instead of monitoring the watershed in barangay, it monitors the watershed in every cluster. So the EPA offers their tips on how you can help your watershed clean and healthy. So number 1 is the conserve water every day. So take shorter shower, fix leaks, and turn off the water when they are not in use. So don't pour toxic household chemicals down the drain, take them to a hazardous waste center. The third one is use hardy plants that require little or no watering, fertilizer, or pesticide in your yard. So the next is do not over apply fertilizer. Consider using organic or slow release fertilizer instead. Then recycle yard waste in compost pile and use a mulching mower. The next one is the use surface like wood, brick, or gravel for decks and walkways, allows rain to soak in and not run off. Then next is never pour used oil or antifreeze into the storm drain or on the street. The next one is pick up after your dog and dispose of the waste in the toilet or the trash. Drive less, walk, or bike. Many pollutants in our water comes from car exhaust and car leaks. So that will be the end of my report. So thank you.